Well, I think everyone says it, and I think I am, unfortunately, very passionate and very overreact to things. Pain, actually. I'm oversensitive. And so I think all these works and my exhibitions and things are not themes I think that's a good idea to do. It's because I am upset or worked up or care or I'm searching for solutions. So it's my desire or my pain or my angst or I'm worried about it, or how do I find out? So it's very personal to me, yes. It's my journey. So it was very hard to put it all into a book as well and to elikaranna to everybody, what is going on in my heart and has gone in my heart in my life, but what, I'm going to be out of here soon, so I thought I might as well do it, share it. My name is Anoma. I don't really use my surnames. And I don't really like to designate what I am, because I have done such a variety of different things, from mixed media to a lot of video work to sculpture, oils, digital, iPad art. So it's a variety, so in a way I don't feel I can actually call myself anything. I mean, I'm just an explorer. That's an idea. Adventurer, explorer. I never wanted to be anything else, even as a little girl. Occasionally I wanted to be an air hostess or a ballerina, all those sort of silly things that, not silly, but you know what I mean, more light and fun things, and more, looks glamorous or whatever. But then I really wanted to sit down and paint, and my mother now, I remember my mother telling somebody else that even as a baby, how babies' pillows have this embroidery, that I used to sit there as a baby tracing the embroidery. So I was always painting, and all my school friends said we knew you'd never do anything else. So that was what I did, and I was not very good at anything else also. So there was really no choice, no decision about it. That was there from the start. But of course I decided to do design and textile design because my parents said, no way can you just go and do art. They were not even happy to send me to art college. I had got the degrees to go to university. So there was a big battle. So that was my concession, that I would do design. And that's why sort of in my 40s, I thought, though I'd always sold my paintings as well, that I would stop designing and start actually just concentrating on painting, because otherwise, I would run out of time to be able to do that. So that's how it started. But there wasn't like a choice, in a way. That's like a default position for me. As a child, I was always drawing. I was sent to Coreg Abraham School. I was sent to various art teachers, and my parents were wonderful, and that's why I have thanked them in the book and dedicated the book to them, because they did. Despite what they would have preferred me to do, they encouraged me. And I was taken to exhibitions, to plays, to music things, and so I was given a very cultured background of living, to appreciate art. So I did that, but it was all very, very straightforward kind of art, very representational art. And then, even for my A-levels, that's what I had to do. But then when I went to art college, I went to Loughborough, to do my foundation, and then I had after that another 5 years in art college. I did 2 degrees, and so when I moved to England and to London especially, and I was at Central St. Martin's, there is when I really learned that the first thing we were made to do, not because we were made in that way, but just pushed, break the rules. No rules. The whole thing was about disruption, about rethinking, and it was a whole different way of looking at art, of design, and it was about breaking ground always, never getting comfortable, never thinking, that's the way to do it, and then sticking at it. So those are the things that changed, as well as the work ethic. And criticism that's something else that I would like to really touch on, because I think that's very important for us also. I think being comfortable and inviting and appreciating criticism and learning from that was something also that because every 6 weeks we had a project. Every 6 weeks we had 10 lecturers tearing everything you did to bits, making you justify it, and then also saying, you know, and he might say, I think this was really working like this very well, and you'll say, no, this is not working at all for this reason. So, you know, we would be lacerated almost, but that's how we grew. That's how we learned, by being told what was not necessarily good, but what was actually a problem. So yes, that was a huge learning curve at that point, and it changed my work. And that has stayed with me always, in a way, to change, to disrupt, to co-criticize, to criticize myself, to ask for criticism. I'm careful. I try not to give too much, because I don't think it's that easy here to give. But yeah, so that's how it works. You know, actually I started 10 years ago. So it was actually suggested by Saskia Fernando, and a lot of people said I should do it, but you know, I was also in the middle of painting and in the middle of doing exhibitions. So but anyway, it took 7 years, but it started almost 10 years ago as a thought, and so it should have been 10 years ago really that it happened. So it's already too late, or it's already quite late in the day. Why did I even think of doing one, or why did people suggest I should? I think what's come clear is that people now that are looking at the book, they're realizing that they have not seen even half the work, or 3/4 of the work, because they've been in many other countries in the world, and they're actually in locations as far as Hawaii, Stockholm, Myanmar, Beijing, Australia, you know, Belize. And so there's no way that people will have seen the whole body of the work. So in that sense, it's a good exercise, because it's a way of archiving it all and presenting it together. It also was very useful for me to look back over my trajectory, transition, what I have learned or what I haven't learned. And there are the people who much prefer my early work, and some who didn't like that at all and prefer the later work. Of course, there are people who don't like it at all, so that's also fine. But at least there's a record of it in chronological order. And also, when I was doing it, what I realized also, which I hadn't quite realized, is that there are 3 sections, if you like, or themes that it kept falling into. And one was about one's personal journey and transformation and self-discovery and awareness, and probably my own particular journey, and then my concern for the environment, which started with space in 2005 in Sydney, and has carried on till the last work on that was in 2016, called Earthlines. So that was that section, and then starting really with 2002, my exhibition in New Delhi, which was about Islam and Buddhism.
Once I got to know Anoma and I was introduced to her work, she told me that she had the seed of an idea to produce a monograph. It then became very clear that she wanted some help to turn this book into a reality, and that's where I came in. It was my great pleasure and an honor to be able to help her to find a wonderful graphic design. The book features a number of essays. Both of those start to explore the quality of her work and also some interesting details into Anoma's past.
I was mesmerized by her art then. It's so rich and so deep, and I love the way that she manages to combine so many of the social issues and the cultural issues together with very deep knowledge and love for Buddhist theology and German poetry and Romanticism.
I saw her as clearly a powerhouse artist in Sri Lanka, and I felt like I really needed her in the collection. Just her work's extremely powerful and speaks to everyone, and it's not flimsy. It has that kind of substance and strength that people look for, and yet it's materially durable to the eye.
So this is Ganana Tobesekra's piece of writing, which I only asked him for one page, like an A4 bit of writing as a forward, but he ended up writing 2,000 words. So then, of course, my editor, Richard Simon, said, "My God, you're so lucky, you can't cut any of it." Because I said, "What bit can we take?" And he said, "No, no, we have to keep the whole thing."
Anoma did ask me to write a foreword, you see. But, you know, I don't know what a foreword is. I mean, it ended up with 2,000 words. You're lucky that I didn't have another book written on it. What good art does is to awaken our conscience and our consciousness of what the world we live in. So I think that's what Anoma's art also does, to awaken us. I wrote a book called The Awakened Ones. Love that painting, that picture, you see, which is on the cover of my book. It really captures what Anoma is doing. You can't pin it down as a kind of modern day statement, but great art is something that comes to you from your own experience in some sense, which matches with the experience of most of us who have been delving into our own lives and being enriched by the world which we live in. Something that is framed, you know. The experience itself is awfully difficult to communicate, and that is what rich art does, you see, to communicate that which is incommunicable, you know.
Then a more personal exhibition about the soul and how we transmute ourselves, move on. This is Space, which was in Sydney, which was about our place on Earth and how small we are on Earth, really. And I'm talking about how fleeting our time is and how meaninglessly tiny each human being is in the span of the Earth. But this is in 2005, and I was sort of alluding to climate change. Can I read one bit that's really powerful for me from Gananato Besekar, which he wrote for Quest? I hope I don't get tearful, not so I get emotional because it's so powerful. He wrote it in 2006, but I used it again in 2016. So he says, "We who are not dead cannot afford to sleep. It is necessary for poets, painters, dreamers, scholars, religious rethinkers and visionaries to raise their collective voices and jolt the public conscience, showing us the futility of the terrifying discriminations we have invented, and hopefully persuading us to resurrect the gentleness, our feminine nature, one might even say, that many of us have suppressed. Then perhaps we can go to sleep." Gananato Besekara, very, very powerful.
The book has been in development for almost 7 years, and I think it has become a real odyssey of the journey that she has taken over many years. I think it crystallises her as a concerned and committed artist. However, for the rest of us who've been involved at various stages of the book, it's been rather fun. She emerged as being an adventurous, courageous young woman, taking all sorts of risks and adventures to live life to the full, and some of which I've been able to put into the essay. So I hope you will enjoy the genesis of an artist in her early years. She has been invited to show her work internationally, in London, in Australia, in India. Recently she was invited to represent women artists from Sri Lanka in Sotheby's in Hong Kong, a very prestigious exhibition.
A lot of artists I know in Europe, etc., do have very big library of books on art and other issues as well. But I've been collecting books a long time, and I love reading. I wasn't allowed to go out much as a child, very strict. So I read everything. So by the time I was 14, I'd read all the Russian writers, American writers. So I've always read a lot. And of course I love picture books. So my parents were very kind and used to buy me picture books. So I've carried on buying my own picture books, and I've got, yeah, a lot. And of course they're some not in great condition because our climate is just not good for them, but what's to be done. And so there are books on philosophy, on religion, on poetry, which I also love, and of course on art as well. And of course a lot of novels as well, because I love reading novels and fiction, because my life is one of the imagination. So, you know, even in my off time, I'm living the imaginatory life, you know, and enjoying writers. And but also they are very inspiring. Not only are they books on artists and art and movements of art, and some that are very old artists, some that are new, some that are very contemporary. So obviously with the internet, I'm now looking at art as well. I look at several art magazines a day online, and but then it's nothing like a book, you know. There's something wonderful about looking at a book that has got paintings in it. But there's also photography books and books on nature, because nature is very much part of what fuels my work, drives my work, gives me emotional support as well, you know. I get from animals and books much more than from human beings, actually, to be honest. So that's all there in that. So that's part of my research, and there's a lot of philosophy also, which sometimes I can't cope with, but sometimes I can, and poetry. And I'm very excited by poetry, and that I think since I was a child, because I think my grandmother liked poetry. And so I read the same poets time and again, and new poets, and from Rabindranath Tagore to Neruda to Octavio Paz. And my great love in my life is the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke. That is why I turned also to my friend Ramya Jirasinghe, who is a wonderful Sri Lankan poet, who I asked whether she would write for my paintings. A lot of people think that the poetry came first and the paintings later, but it's the other way around. She looked at the paintings and wrote poetry for them. She wrote 3 poems, whole long pieces, as a response to the art. And then the work that is in the Biennale in Venice has work, was again paintings I did, and I asked my friend Ramesh Gunasekara, the writer, whether he would write a few lines. Again, like I was asking Gananath, can you write one forward or something? And then he has come up with these amazing words, which are 16 poems that make up one poem. So that's, the book is now in Venice. People are looking at that. And it's also on video. We've done a video work, and that's being heard with him, what's the word, reciting his poetry and music, etc. So yes, words, literature, very huge part of my life, as is music and nature, really. When the invitation came to be part of personal structures at the Venice Biennale, I really was not keen to do it, I'll be honest, because I was in the throes of the book, my monograph, and it was driving me around the bend, and I didn't think I was ever going to finish it, and I was fed up of it, and yet I had to be done, and I just thought, I can't now take this thing on, because I have to find money for it, I have to find time for it, I have to whatever. But then I was told by a friend, you know, you're getting on in life, you'll probably never be asked again, and how can you say no? And then my gallerist in London, Jana, said, nobody says no to the Venice Biennale. I mean, I'm not even going to deal with you or take your work if you don't. So like, so then I had to do it, and then luckily it was very hard to find some of the funding for it, but thankfully I found some amazing sponsors who came through. They were fantastic because we needed a lot of help. I don't really start working without my sketchbooks, and I mean they're with me the whole time. They're like sort of Bible, notepad. Sometimes I spend weeks just working on sketches, weeks sometimes just writing. So it sort of has a whole life before I actually start actually even sketching a painting. Lots of possibilities of ideas. I mean, lots of ideas here that, you know, have never been used. Then I might just sit down and do. I think this was the Abubula, 100 years ago. So that's the kind of process that is part of my part of my process. I look at other stuff. I'm thinking now I did this, but I never followed that through. I hear you talking about this is responding to 9/11, so I was so appalled by that. This is when I was working on these paintings, and there's some that I incorporated the Bamiyan Buddhas with 9/11 because in a way they are related. Yeah, so it's looking at newspapers, looking at magazines, looking on the net, responding to what's going on in the world, Brexit and Mr. Trump really inspired, or I don't know if the word is inspired, but anyway, that was Mikasa was part of that. So there we go. And so then I have to start. I'm working on something for London at the moment, so I really need to find a sketchbook or place where I can sort of scribble notes on that, but I think all these books are full of. There are about 10 of these, and well, that's my life really. These are more important to me than any painting, actually. Each panel where people had to comment, I had one called We Are the Culprits. Funny that it just suddenly opened up on there. And I combine it with the writing of Rainer Maria Rilke, this slow breathing of earth, whose hurry we are. And then I go into We Are the Culprits, and how human development shaped by the industrial and green revolutions have altered the balance of the planet, fossil fuels, our natural life-supporting processes. Efficiently, the amount of CO2 should not exceed 350 parts per million. Currently, we are over 390 parts per million. This is 2012. I don't know what it is now. So these are the issues that were being discussed, and this is from the International Panel on Climate Change. Another one that I did was called Rising. These are huge panels on the street. Sinking our carbon, oceans at our carbon sink. Rising temperature reduces the ocean's ability to store carbon dioxide. Rising temperatures affecting coral, the underwater forests. We cannot continue to rely on the ocean to buffer the effects of our pollution indefinitely without consequence. Of course, it's now full of plastic. There will be in 2050 more plastic than fish in the sea. Biodiversity, called magnificent, supporting life. Protecting our future. This is all in 2012. I feel sort of horrified reading this now, because the world is not given by his father, but borrowed from his children, by James Audubon. So think of your children. I don't have any, but think of yours.